You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. So there it is again, Category 5 status for Typhoon Hinnamnor as it saunters southwestwards, well to the south of Miyakojima and east of Taiwan. Has reached Category 5 for the second time in the Western Pacific, this extremely impressive, intense storm, which continues to cause significant anxiety around the East Asian region. My name is Nathan Foy to talk to you about this live event, which we had to start late due to unforeseen technical issues, as always seems to be the case. But we're waking up to this larger eye in Hinnamnor right now, much larger than it was on our stream yesterday. And we are here until, I think, what time are we on now? I think we're here until 10 AM Japan time. So we've got a good while to talk about this storm and discuss it with our team. And with us right now, my name is Nathan Foy in the studio, and we've got our team. We have Daniel, David, Christian, Joey, Gizmo, and Jose. Much of the same faces that you saw on last night's stream, and let's say hello to all of them now. How are we tonight?
Good.
We're alright.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. So, what are our thoughts on this storm today? Let's start with Joey. Your thoughts on how this has evolved in the last day and what we can take from it now.
Well, obviously it was undergoing an eyewall replacement cycle earlier on today. It has since completed that cycle with its inner eyewall being completely shredded and that outer eyewall becoming the dominant feature. And so from here on out, what we could expect is possibly another bout of strengthening before it begins stalling near the island of Okinawa and northern Taiwan. So definitely concerning picture from here on out, because at the moment the environmental conditions for Hinnamnor are looking very, very good. There's nothing much hindering the system, apart from upwelling, which could happen if it moves too slowly, or further eyewall replacement cycles.
Were we surprised that it's reached Category 5 for a second time? I think a lot of people might say no. But it wasn't forecasted by the agencies. JTWC wanted it to gradually weaken from last night onwards, and it's ignored that completely, hasn't it?
Sure has.
What do you think has been the reason that it's defied the JTWC there? Were they just wrong in that prediction, or were they seeing something else that didn't end up happening?
It could be anything, really. I mean, apparently they've not been as reliable as they have been in the past with forecasting this system, and I don't know what the deal is with them, but yeah, they're just not been as reliable lately.
I think it was possibly due to the fact that when the system was going through the eyewall replacement cycle yesterday, that inner eyewall, they probably looked at the inner eyewall and said, this inner eyewall isn't giving up, it looks like this eyewall replacement cycle may continue for quite some time, and thought that would hinder the system from here on out. And probably
agree with you on that part.
They probably
I
didn't
definitely
think it was
agree with
going
that.
to holiday as much. That's probably their reasoning behind it was, but obviously here we are now with that.
Yep.
With the system strengthening.
Yes, it's... Oh, sorry, Nathan.
I was just going to introduce you properly there. You're showing us the radar imagery of the storm right now.
Very rough radar because it's
yep.
going right outside the radar range.
And
here,
it's still
but,
heading quite southwards, and I guess the main
yes.
question for all of us now is going to be just how far south will it travel? And then the following question will be how far west, when it will probably turn back that way a little bit.
This is the weird scenario. This whole setup kind of, in the way that it will do that sharp turn, reminds me of Dorian from 2019. We never knew when it was going to turn. So this will be an interesting kind of, I guess, remake of that scenario. But, yeah.
It's far enough away from land areas right now that nowhere is receiving typhoon conditions, and as such no warnings are out. There are gale advisories in effect for the Oyama and Miyako Islands, and still in effect for Daitojima, which of course got a very close pass from the storm yesterday when it was nearly a Category 5. On our left bar you can see the short-term forecast on what we expect it will do, moving southwards and then really going back on itself and towards Miyakojima. I would say there's quite a concern there for a potential landfall, although we still think that the storm's eye will pass just a little bit east of the island.
Mm-hmm.
As always, we're here in the studio to take your questions at any time during our stream. Like I said, we're here for just less than 2.5 hours with a lot more discussion and imagery besides. And I always feel that it's very important to take questions and to get these answered, I guess. And we've already seen one or two. What do the official agencies say about Hinnamnor's intensity now?
Let me check for you. At least tropical tidbits wise, check. I don't know if it's updated.
Well, here's the latest JTWC cone, and they have the storm at 125 knots, which is a full, probably 10% lower than what we have it at right now. What do we think about that?
Huh.
It's showing it closer to Korea than I would, personally thought it would be.
Yeah, the track later on has shifted a little bit westwards. Now that means that the westernmost islands of the Ryukuus and Taiwan and a little bit of eastern China and Korea, of course, is going to be shifted more into the crosshairs. What it also means, though, is there's a big difference in sea surface temperatures in the East China Sea. So with this forecast being closer to China, sea surface temperatures are much cooler, and they're now expecting the second peak to only be at Category 3. But having said that, it's already completely underestimated the storm right now, so is this a trash forecast, or does it still have much merit? I'm not sure.
We'll just have to wait and see for that.
I mean, personally, I've found it quite hard to predict stuff like this, especially this far out when it is getting close to the Korean Peninsula and islands like Jeju, Honshu. So, I mean, it very well at that stage could be inaccurate, but it also could be quite accurate as well.
The one thing I find with, right before you're about to talk, one thing I find with Westpac's storms that they're very, very hard to predict in general, at times. At least from my experience.
Well, it's usually storms that form in the August period, really, where they always have competing areas of interest usually, and in the case of this storm it's all been about 13W being in its way.
Which is being sucked into it now.
Yep. So, but I mean, it's rare for the storms to get that strong in August at this, yes, especially at this latitude, but if it was ever to happen, it would happen round about now. 31st of August is the peak day, traditionally, of the Pacific typhoon season. Of course,
I love how the day it peaks is the day it re-peaks.
Well, you got to
Yeah.
remember, down in this part of the world, it's now September.
Yeah, well, just ignore that.
Well,
But you know,
yes,
we're pretty much there.
minor details.
But you know, you get the point. We are right in the peak season of the Western Pacific at this time.
Yes.
As we look at this visible imagery of the storm appearing out of the darkness that happened earlier on. And of course you can see our little insert showing live imagery of the storm's progression at a close-up angle. And this imagery here from the Geocolor Himawari 8. Fantastic visible imagery as always from this perspective. Showing the storm and its large eye, probably about twice as large as it was yesterday.
I would just like to mention, even though it's undergoing, well, I think it's still going under eye wall replacement, you can really see that it's trying to round out its eye and get it less rugged, like it has been overnight in that part of the world.
Yes.
We had a few more questions before. Why? Oh, well, a few more actually before this. When could we expect this storm to round out its eye? It's in the process of doing that right now.
And it's looking good.
Here's
I would say
another
give
view.
it- Yeah, I'd say give it a couple of hours from now to really consolidate itself again. And its eyes will probably not be as jagged as we are seeing it now. If that's what, no, it depends on what you mean by round in when it comes to eyes and your standards, but yeah.
Well, it is round. It's just got clouds in it that doesn't make it look
Yeah.
round.
Yeah.
You look at these color tables. Let's see what else we've got. Why did the storm take a southern turn? Very interesting username. Well, that southern turn was mainly inspired by the Fujiwhara effect that it's taking on with that other area. Let's go to the wide shot and you'll be able to see that happening. There it is, and you can see that 13W has pretty much disappeared and it's now become part of the storm's outer bands. And it is growing huge in that regard. Right down into the Philippine Sea.
Yeah, now it's part of the outflow channels, as it seems.
Basically.
Kind of practically.
So with its influence appearing to have disappeared already, as far as I can see, then...
I think... Hold up, I'll check. I want to check satellite if I can still see a spin in there somewhere.
Right.
There's probably somewhere still the low level. I wouldn't be surprised. But it's probably being engulfed over these cloud tops of convection now. Have taken over in that place.
It just feels that surely this southern movement can't last that long. When you look at it.
I'm just wondering.
Those outflow.
Be watching very closely to see if there's any changes in the speed of the movement that haven't been since yesterday. It is still moving at 16 miles per hour and still moving southwest according to the latest fixed data that we're getting. If that number changes, we'll let you know, because that will be a sign that it's obviously changing.
And
keep an eye on
the
it.
Typhoon Warning Centre is saying that it's to slow down, become quasi-stationary. The new mechanism kicks in. So are we seeing it slowing down?
Well, of course, the JTWC, yes, it will slow down, but they still want that hook as a forecast there, a much tighter one than it was saying yesterday, albeit. So it is sort of getting more on board with that stall. But computer models had been saying that it would stall completely before starting to move north again. And they sort of evolved a little bit, GFS particularly, into saying that it would actually just go south a little bit more and then just turn back on itself. So not stall as much, but just literally follow the same path back and then north.
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
Nathan, would you mind going over to my screen? Because I think I've found the low-level center.
Right, let's have a look.
Roughly, if you look very closely, right in that middle kind of spot in between where both storms would be kind of separated, You can see a slight spin, which is now.
I thought it was supposed to be east of the storm, though. I'm just looking at another little area that you can see.
I think it got pulled northward, northeastward around the storm. So I think it's being flung around.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it might be another little area that's actually off to the right-hand side of the storm.
Yeah, it could also be the remnants trying to do something. However, getting more power from the main system outflow, which it would be an interesting situation. Again, but since it would be behind it, we should see the at least the movement start probably changing shortly.
Definitely looking like a beast, though, and that certainly looks like a southerly jog just now. So we're watching every single one of these oscillations just to see if a broader trend establishes itself. But take a look at that wide shot.
Gonna measure this.
I mean, how crazy is that? So the influence of the storm there, you can see, is about 1,800 kilometers. Where yesterday, 24 hours ago, we were saying that its whole influence was about 400 kilometers.
Jeez.
It's a shocking expansion in size.
So we're not kidding. It's grown. Was it 400? Probably a little bit more than 400 yesterday. But it's probably grown to at least twice its size in 24 hours.
Yeah.
The very big expansion in a short amount of time.
And that is what we were expecting as it got closer to this sort of area.
Going from top to bottom, this is how...
1,400 miles, is that?
Maybe even like closer to 1,500?
Yeah, it depends how you measure it, of course.
I mean, I probably like right there, so closer to 1,500, but...
More comments here. Will there be live tropical weather bulletin coverage? We are going to build it in as part of our live stream tonight again, as well as we did last night. When Weathercat says, when will it hit Alaska?
Yeah, well,
You're thinking ahead, clearly.
You're thinking
Ages away.
it'll be
Over a week.
It'll be post-tropical. It'll be well over a week from now.
And more comments here. How warm is the eye? That's a good question. It's been staying pretty steady at about 17 degrees, which is a pretty good temperature, and I think that convinced me personally that it's category 5 again.
I could get a quick measurement, latest measurement.
Yeah, it's probably going to have changed by now, so...
So Nathan, you say it's a category 5?
Oh yeah, quite easily, I would say.
I would say that I also support the category 5 status, especially based as seeing its structure and how it is beginning to round out its eye and finish the eye replacement cycle. I would say that personally it is a category 5, probably around the 160 mile per hour mark.
Yeah,
I
I think I do
24
personally
hour.
think it's regained category 5 as well.
Nathan, I'm loading the 24-hour thing.
Sorry?
So I'm loading the last 24 hours, so we can
Okay.
see the track that's taken in the last 24.
Yeah, let's go back
And we
to
can
your
see
screen again then.
We can see the expansion.
Which was enabled by that other tropical depression. So you could call it a little bit of teamwork there.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Please don't do that
Bad
again.
situation.
Oh dear.
But quite clearly, the storm motion there has taken more of a turn towards the south. But how much longer will it go on like that before it inevitably has to turn around? That's going to be the main question now. A question here, though, in our chat. Will this storm loop to the east? It definitely looks like it's on its way to do that. It's less likely that it's going to be east. We think it's going to be just a little bit west.
Looks
It's
due
hard
south
to
right
tell.
now.
You know, Nathan, I was thinking about the southern track or the jaunt, how close to the Philippines area responsibility?
It's in it. It is.
Yeah.
It's in the PAR at this moment in time.
Has it been given a name then?
Yep, it's been given Henry.
Henry.
Yep.
Henry.
At least that's one you can
Have they
pronounce,
got it?
David. Let's see
Yes.
if there's some
Could talk about that and names.
more questions. What is the time that the storm will probably lose its Category 5 status? Well, that's a good question. I mean, where do we go
Probably
from here?
soon.
Where do we go from
Unless-
here, considering that we weren't... well, JTWC weren't expecting Category 5. Some people in our community were.
I would say probably a day at max.
Yeah, I would say around 24 hours as well. I don't expect to be able to maintain.
Because I don't. It will
Right.
probably say a mid-range Cat 4 after that, and probably slowly weaken down to a high-end 3.
Especially considering it's expected to stall soon as well. It's not going to help it maintain this intensity.
Nope. It might be even
Nice.
sooner than 24 hours.
Nathan, when did it lose Cat 5 status?
Last time, about a day and a half ago, I think it was. Or was it longer than that? I can't remember.
Either.
It was Cat 5 when we were on air yesterday, wasn't it?
Not
No, it
by
wasn't.
my estimates. It was.
No, it was high end 4 this time yesterday.
I am 4.
It was still a 5 on the JTWC, but it was going to lose it later.
Yes.
A question from Justin Wilson. Is it still intensifying?
It's right now intensifying, yeah.
The eye is about. By the way, just to say this,
Not much
is
doubt about
about 30 miles wide. At least currently.
I mean, looking at its structure, it is after its IRO replacement cycle, it is maintaining quite a good structure. Personally, I think that structure will start to weaken and get more rugged as it stalls near the southern part of the Okinawa Islands. I think that's the correct one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But currently, its structure does look very impressive for where it's at. But I do think it will begin to lose that sort of structure as it stalls near those islands and Taiwan.
Just checking eye temperature again, it's now up to 19 degrees.
Yeah, that's what I got just a bit ago.
So when we talk about eye temperature, usually a warmer eye temperature is an indication of a clearer eye, and sometimes, not directly, but can sometimes indicate a warmer eye as well. And both of those combine when we monitor the satellites and generally come out with a stronger storm when all of the measurements are made. It is an inexact science what we do with satellites here. The only way to find out how strong this is for sure is to get instruments in the storm. In the Atlantic, they do that through recon planes. I know that they're doing limited missions now in the Western Pacific again. But apart from that and on-the-ground measurements, we won't get exact numbers ever from these storms.
Unfortunately.
But even then, just
would
on
be great
satellite,
if
you can
Recon could
clearly
go in.
see that it's a very powerful typhoon, despite not getting any definite answer from how strong it is.
Definitive evidence,
course.
shall we say.
Let's get some more comments. Hold on. Was there storm surge damage in mainland Okinawa because they were under a storm surge warning earlier today? I know they were under an emergency storm surge warning yesterday, I think it was. I have not been able to check personally, but if any of you
I'm
guys
going
know.
Oh,
So they'll let us know shortly. Also, I would like to note that in about 20 minutes time that we will have new GFS visualizations for this storm, and we'll be able to take a look at what they're forecasting next.
Okay, so this is from NHK, which I believe is the government-run news agency in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that there was a storm surge, but they haven't reported on how much storm surge there was. Also reported mudslides and flooding of low-lying areas, along with heavy rainfall and possible flash flooding. This was 8 hours ago. However, no definitive answer on how high the storm surge was or how much rainfall has fallen so far.
Alright, this is interesting. Just got the raw data for the GFS right now. I'm unable to show you this, but we'll be able to visualize it together in about 20 minutes. But the GFS reckons that this storm will continue trailing southwards for another 12 hours yet, and then, yes, turn east and then back north. So that's a new development and completely at odds with the JTWC forecast. And then it will hover around and stall a little bit more before then making the jaunt through Miyakojima with a pressure in the 920s and then to the 910s in the East China Sea. It's going to be a massive thing. And it's showing a potential landfall in southeastern Korea at on Monday evening, is what it's saying now. Tropical storm force winds will reach the coast of China, eastern China, including
I think
near Shanghai.
We probably lost Nathan again.
On
yeah, because
Sunday
he's still
afternoon.
talking
Can you hear
on
me?
the stream.
Well,
I
can
can't
hear
hear
you.
us.
Yeah.
Well, can you hear me now?
Okay, we can't hear you, but you can hear us on stream, but we can't hear you in the thing.
How very odd. I don't
We
know
can't
why
hear
that
you.
is, but they can't hear me, so I'll just have to talk to myself for the next few minutes because everything is working properly here. But we can take a look at what else is going on with the storm. I'm just looking at the winds once again for the east coast of Japan. The western coast of Kyushu. We're looking at Monday morning for the onset of tropical storm force winds. So those, amongst many other things, are what we're going to be focusing on as we keep discussing this. So a rather odd situation with our team right now, who I can hear perfectly well and they're unable to hear me, which is very odd. They'll have to interject once they're able to hear me. But for the time being, it looks like I'm going solo. So if you've got any more comments and questions for us, we'll be able to take them live on the air. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. A question there from Grenadine's Des, who says, how is Gardo? It is very much dead. It is along the eastern periphery of the main core of this typhoon and has completely been swallowed up. Hurricane Iona says, what's the current steering affecting this storm, and does it still have the possibility to move more south than usual? So yeah, when I checked, it certainly has scope to move further south. Let me take a look at some charts to see if I can inform you a little better about these. Okay, the website's down, so I guess that's not going to work. I was hoping I'd be able to look at my usual page, but it appears to not be there. So I'm sure maybe one of our other team members will be able to look that up for you right now. But it looks like that the main thing that's steering this storm right now is the influence from 13W, which it's swallowing up. And as it continues to ingest that, it's going to go a little bit loopy for a while and then eventually turn northwards and get sucked up by, I imagine, picked up by this frontal system that's currently further towards the north. How long since or until it reaches the first island? So yes, that's one that I didn't mention earlier. So it's going to do a loop round further south, and then it's going to go back north near Miyakojima, and it makes its closest pass to Miyakojima on Saturday evening. Now think about that, we're in Thursday morning, and it's another 2.5 days until it'll be back up there, making its closest approach to Miyakojima. Quite remarkable. Let's see what else we have in the chat just now. What are the chances of storm surge in Taiwan? I would imagine that storm surge is not going to be a major issue in Taiwan, but rip currents and high waves will be an issue. But no actual surge inland. I really doubt that will be any kind of an issue there. Taiwan will of course get quite a bit of rain from this as well, and that will start pretty soon, I would say. And we've seen that it could be in excess of 150 millimeters. Just looking at something else that's been sent to me in another chat, although that appears not to be loading up either. So what else have we got here right now? Another comment there, when will Danielle form? Well, that might be on the way eventually, but not at the moment. More on that on the Tropical Weather Bulletin in an hour's time. Another comment there, which is actually a very interesting question. How will Hinnamnor affect the ACE, the accumulated cyclone energy? It will be a big boost because ACE has been trailing behind the average by a long shot in the Western Pacific. It's been something like 20% or 15% of what it usually is by this point. And obviously it's going to recoup a huge amount of that as this storm continues collecting a lot of ACE points per day, which is a measure of how much energy is contained within this storm over a time period. More comments. Our thoughts on this year's late season activity. I imagine that the Western Pacific is going to be very backloaded with lots of storm activity later on in the season, especially October, November by the looks of things. What else do we have here? What if the GFS is correct? How devastating will it be if it is? I would say it'd be quite devastating. Affecting the southern Korean coast is probably a category 3 with possibly an enormous storm surge and very large rainfall amounts. I imagine it will be Korea's worst storm in maybe 20 years since storms like Rusa. I can't think of any that happened in between that time. I might have missed something. But I would say that this is certainly a big potential threat to that whole region. I know that we still have some issues with our feed at the moment, and my team aren't able to hear me at all. And I'm just wondering, I think there may be some kind of issue here where nothing is actually loading. It's very odd. The only thing that's... Oh no, things are loading better for me now. But at one point there, the only thing that was loading properly for me was the YouTube chat that I'm reading off, and that's it. So I've no idea. So please bear with us if you can for the next couple of hours. We'll keep trying with our team, trying to get them in here. But as of right now, we do have some issues. So it's just me for the time being as we continue to monitor the storm. Once again, this is visual satellite imagery with the storm on the geocolor from the Himawari 8 satellite, looking very impressive this morning. And it is currently around 200 kilometers from Miyakojima, moving away towards the southwest, and will eventually move further south, stall for a while, and then back towards the north. Let's see what else we have in the comments right now. Will the storm hit Taiwan? As I mentioned before, not really, not directly. There will be some rain from the storm that will potentially impact Taiwan with up to and possibly above 150 millimeters of rain. Rainfall estimates have trended down just a little bit. But in terms of strong winds, yes, some areas along the east coast will get gusty tropical storm force winds. Nothing too extreme. There won't be typhoon conditions, but what you'll notice as the storm really starts to grow in size and its stature over the next 24 to 48 hours, it will start to be felt a lot more along the coast of Taiwan, northeastern coast particularly, when the storm moves past that area in a couple of days. More comments. People asking about the Caribbean disturbance, about going to the Eastern Pacific. It most likely will.
Oh,
got it.
We'll
hello,
cover a lot
he's
more
back.
than that on the
We're
Tropical
back.
Weather Bulletin tonight. And it appears quite clearly that the team are able to hear me again. I think that might have been a client error or something along those lines.
I
Who
have
knows what
got
it
more
was.
information about the Okinawa situation.
About what? Okinawa, yes.
Yeah. So apparently they've received around 250 millimeters of rainfall so far, a storm surge of between 3 and 4 meters, and winds of up to 65 miles per hour in exposed areas. And that's according to NMK.
And nothing about storm surge, though.
3 to 4 meters of storm surge.
Oh, sorry, did I miss that? So that's
Yeah.
quite a lot, actually. Then
Yes, it
3 to
is.
4 meters.
And probably on a high tide too. Was it high or low?
So it'd be,
Yeah, never said.
I don't know, be just over 10 feet there.
They are expecting around the same storm surge in areas when the system moves north after stalling. All of this is according to NMK.
More questions now. How many people are in the expected tropical storm force winds and typhoon winds, and how much damage could it cause? Well, we're only looking out to 5 days when we look at those types of graphics. As a matter of fact, I'll be able to show you one of these graphics out to 6 days actually. And this is the graphic that's actually used on our left bar at various points. But let me show you a proper look at it. And hopefully my settings haven't changed since we were last on air. I think you'll be able to see that. So this is from the ECMWF model showing the percentage chance of tropical storm force winds in your area. Anything that's orange is 50% or more, getting towards those darkest colours, which is 95%. I mean, basically, if you're in an orange zone, more than a half chance of getting tropical storm force winds.
Just like to note, looking at that map, Taipei, which is the capital of Taiwan, with a population of up to 5 million people,
Yep.
and the coast of China, which also have millions of people living along it, are in those medium zones, especially northern Taiwan, where Taipei is, getting into towards the red zones, which is quite a high probability of those winds.
So yeah, quite high populations, which is why we're covering this so intensely. Millions, and by the time it reaches Korea, I would speculate that we're probably looking at a total of 10 to 15 million that receive gale force winds, if not more. How much longer does the storm have to improve its structure, and if so, is there any room for more intensification? Well, we're watching it unfold right now. It is doing it live here, intensifying and looking better frame by frame, if I'm not mistaken, Taniel.
Sorry, you caught me off guard.
Sorry
you were
about
saying?
that. I was just wondering, as we cross over to your radar as well, whether this storm is constantly improving in your view?
Looks like it. I'm looking at the two radars, but Windy currently has the best view on the radar. Yeah, let's zoom into that eye structure. And looks fairly decent right now. However, we're gonna probably lose the radar of the eye if it keeps going southward.
And I think it will.
Probably.
Nathan,
But, yeah.
Yes.
if you want to look at my screen, I just found a video on the ACCU weather, and it was showing some couple of videos from
I mean, I
Japan.
would also like to say, if you do look at the its radar imagery, you can see that its effects do seem to be quite outlasting going northward as well, especially on the radar with Daniel. You can see that to its west, you do have that very that band of heavy rain, heavy showers with constant rainfalls, extending far north, affecting the Okinawa Islands even before the storm has impacted the very ones to the very west, and will probably affect Taiwan before the tropical storm winds or the actual system affects Taiwan itself.
I'm gonna look at rainfall totals on some of these islands. Looking anywhere from 10 inches to a foot.
Quite a lot of rainfall.
Yep, those are
Now,
definitely...
I'll look at different models. This is GFS. Still kind of the same thing, except this is more over water. Would be a better thing. Let me check further north.
Obviously, with these smaller islands, storm surge and rainfalls like this pose more of a threat because, islands are normally not as extreme in height. They are normally closer to sea level, so storm surge and rainfall. This is a big issue.
The icon model is showing the worst case scenario for some of these islands. Nearing 2 feet.
It's excessive amount of rainfall in some of these areas.
It will be if the storm moves over those islands.
People in those islands who probably have preparations coming to an end now due to what is being predicted so far, and considering stalling around those areas as well.
Pretty much a universal rule here as well is that the eastern side always tends to be the wettest as well, and you can see the icon must be putting it through Ishigaki to produce that result.
Let's see.
Oh yes, that's much further west than what we were initially thinking.
I'm gonna look for all the models, shall we? The 3 that I have available on Windy.
You can also see on that image that even though the islands do get a lot of rainfall, also northern Taiwan with its very high populations also getting excessive amounts of rainfall, close or similar to what some of those islands are getting as well. And you can also see that to its west, that band of heavy showers affecting areas as well.
There's GFS. Great. And actually look at wind forecasts too, while we're at it.
Also, seeing even though it's far out, so it probably won't be as accurate. You see excessive amounts of rainfall in the southern part of the Korean Peninsula, extending into the northern part, the northern southern parts of Japan. So really, high population totals, possibly up to 25 million people affected by these heavy rainfalls, and around, as Nathan said, 15 to 20 million affected by its wind field, which is truly a lot of people to be affected by a system that's expected to at least be a Category 2 typhoon at that point in its life cycle.
Yes.
In a short moment, we'll have the 18Z visualization on my screen from the GFS model to show you another view on exactly what happens. And interestingly to note, as I'll actually already show you the initial frame, you can quite clearly see the typhoon, of course, but also, oh, just pressed the wrong button, but also 13W still quite clearly visible quite far away from the storm. I'm not sure if that's true, Daniel, from what we've seen, but the wind profile
I don't think that's gonna be
suggests
fully true.
that it's way over there near the Daito Islands at this point.
However, that wouldn't be so much shocking, as I was saying earlier, that looks like it's spinning around it. The remnant could still be flung out of the system in a way.
You can also
Oh, go ahead.
just looking at that image, you can also see that its eastern side doesn't have as far a wind field as its western side. So even on there, it's already showing tropical storm force winds affecting the southern islands a long time, well, a few hours before the main system arrives. And also along the coast of Taiwan, you can see a sliver of tropical storm winds along there as well, which will probably increase as the system moves south to southwest, stalls around those islands, and then heads more north.
Alright, let's see what happens then. A few caveats before we go through the run. The GFS model is not the best resolution. That's why it's showing a pretty poor resolution of the storm's eye. It's much more clearer than what it's showing. It's also lowballing the intensity to begin with and throughout as well, only depicting it at 134 miles per hour when it's in fact around 160. That's just a product of the model not being as powerful as we'd like it to be, I guess. So let's watch the run and see what happens, and closely monitor the relationship between these two centers of circulation as they gyrate around some center near here. Let's watch. There they go, and they're actually being repelled a little bit towards the west, so the storm flies down there and they're swarming around each other. They go that way, that one goes that way, and eventually it all combines into one, and the typhoon eventually gets itself going again. It's off, and look how much larger the wind field is by this point. It's absolutely huge. It extends from Jeju Island in South Korea to the Babayan group of islands in the Philippines, which is thousands of miles, I think, or well over 1,000 at any rate.
You can also note that during that run, tropical storm wind fields even on that image, affecting parts of got the island's name now, but parts of southern Japan, the coast of China were also affected. In screens earlier, you can also see the western part of Taiwan being affected by tropical storm wind field, which is where the bulk of Taiwan's population is, easily up to 90% of its population living on the western side. So easily millions of people being affected by tropical storm wind fields from this system.
And the size of its typhoon force wind field as well, that's the yellow zone and deeper, enormous. It's bigger, about 3 times the size of Taiwan as it moves northwards, and off it goes again. It's still going, still a powerful typhoon. How strong is it here on its 12 to 24 hour approach to Korea? High-end category 3, nearly a category 4 still at this point, at the same latitude as Shanghai. Further up towards its landfall, if it's a landfall, it looks like one, and it is still extremely strong. What is the wind speed there? Again, 128 miles per hour, so it's still nearly a category 4 by this point. which I can't really recall such a strong landfall in South Korea in recent years, at any rate, if that was to happen. Of course, the forecast could still tilt any other quite significantly away to the west or to the east, so we got to watch that very closely because this is quite a few days out. But this GFS scenario is quite nightmarish for the southeastern part of South Korea. Then off it goes again, still maintaining typhoon force winds all the way into Russia, post-tropical by this point. What happens to his remnants? Do we really care? Well, let's have a look anyway. Through Kamchatka, and actually this run has it dying off and giving way to another system over the Aleutian Islands. But just goes to show between this frame at the beginning and this one, which is 3.5 days away, just how much larger the storm grows. It is absolutely enormous by that point.
Would also like to mention in that run cities such like Busan, Fukuoka, Hiroshima, Jeju, Shanghai, Wenzhou, Taipei, Naha, Kumataro, cities like that with very high populations. Busan easily 5 million, Taipei 5 million, Shanghai 10, 15 million, possibly up to 20 million living in that area. Fukushima easily over 1 million. Hiroshima has nearly 1 million, possibly over 1 million. Kumataro also close to 1 million. All these cities have very high populations and will either be affected by tropical storm winds, or in the case of Fukuoka and Busan, easily typhoon winds. Busan on that run facing really the main eye wall of this system, which as shown will produce up to category 4 typhoon winds on that run, which in such an urban area such as Busan, which contains in its metropolitan area 20 million people, will be quite a serious situation for South Korea. And even in areas such as Japan, such as China, such as Taiwan, where they're not facing winds that high but will still face tropical storm and typhoon winds, it will be a very dangerous situation with the amount of people living in areas that the system could affect.
Let's examine rainfall totals. I've marked out a few areas in Taiwan first of all there. From oh my goodness, that is terrible. 2.4 inches at Taichung City, up to around 4.6 inches in Taipei marked out there, and on the mountains up towards 9 inches in Taiwan. Let's move further towards the east where you're getting into those darker colours. You can just about make out some of those islands, and I'll be able to mark them out clearly here. So Yonaguni, 5.5 there, currently depicted, and then Takitomi, I think it is, currently at 8.6 on the forecast. Ishigaki is in there as well at around nearly 11 inches, and up here is Miyakojima at 11.4. And then we're still expecting on that model run that the worst part of the storm's rain totals will remain over that little channel between Miyakojima and Okinawa. And then look down there, this is over water, but once again 46, 47 inches of rain expected over this area, well to the south. I think rain has trended up a lot for Okinawa. I think it's actually, yeah, Okinawa is here, Naha, at 13.7. Kumijima is much lower at 7.4. Looks like it enters a bit of a gap. Further north of Okinawa, 12.6. Up towards the Amami Islands, getting towards 9 inches up there. And then towards, well, where should we go next? Some places in China there at about 5 inches. Up towards Kagoshima, where values end up going lower. And then look towards the Korean Peninsula. Jeju Island there, 11.9. The eastern coast of Korea, all hovering around 8 and 9 inches as well. Extremely high values and these numbers in millimeters. So you've got that 10.6 down there and 11.4. That's around 300 up to 300 millimeters of rain. If some areas get to the 20s, then that's 500 millimeters, and around 10 inches up here as well, around 250 millimeters, and for Jeju Island about 300. So lots of rainfall expected from this storm as well, as we already know and keep going on about. We're happy to take comments and questions here. We have our live tropical weather bulletin, which will take a look at the models much more in depth around the world in half an hour's time.
I would just like to mention with those rainfall levels, in Seoul a few weeks ago, when the city faced its worst flooding ever, it was getting up to 150 to 200 millimeters of rainfall, which is around that 5 inches mark. And in Busan, marked, I believe, was 7 to 8 inches of rainfall, which, if around 5 to 6 inches of rainfall clearly flooded Seoul at that point, I can only imagine the amount of flooding we would see in the Busan metropolitan area, which has such a large population.
As well, with potentially Category 3 winds.
I would just like to mention I've got a webcam up from Ishigaki currently on my screen, if you want to pan to that, Nathan.
Yeah, we'll get there in just a moment. I was just taking a look at what GFS does in the Atlantic, and thankfully it's not as bad as last time. Let's take a look at Joey's screen and see what we can see. So there it is. That is a view. It's raining a little.
Yeah, it's been quite steady. I've noticed quite strong gusts of wind, however. At moments you can really see the trees swaying around in the wind. But that is to be expected. I think Ishigaki right now is in some of the outer bands of the typhoon, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it's quite close to the edge.
Ishigaki.
Yeah, they're in a little hole between a band and the main core of the storm.
Yeah, so that the main core of the storm, you can probably see it just off the coast there, actually. If you look at the way that the clouds are over there. But yeah, that is what it is looking like right now in Ishigaki.
Yeah, let's take some more questions now, as many as we can. Our own moderator, A Moment of Lovely, says that they have a question, worried about the thoughts of impacts. Do you think the islands in the path of the storm will survive that, or will they be gone once the storm is gone itself? Well, I think it's a little bit extreme. These islands have received Category 4 landfalls before. Japanese building codes in these areas, I'm led to believe, are very high. So I would have a little bit of hope there, and as if people prepare properly, it'll hopefully be a little bit better as well. Obviously, we can never guarantee that places are going to be safe when they're dealing with these storms.
Even with the strict building codes, realistically, the amount of wind and rain, even with possibly the most strictest building codes you could imagine, it still probably wouldn't be able to sustain. Probably wouldn't be able to sustain such rain and such wind as this typhoon's giving it. However, it will help, obviously, with them being so strict, but it will probably still affect the islands a lot, and will be a system to remember in those islands.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be a total wipeout, because it's not going to be a Category 5 when it moves through the islands, we don't think. It shouldn't be.
It will wipe out the islands, but
it will carry a big storm surge.
Quite a bad situation.
And it will carry very high rainfall. But these islands have been through big typhoons before, I don't think they've ever been through a Category 5. I don't think this one will be when it makes its closest, but no guarantee they'll actually make a landfall on these islands either. We'll just have to keep watching very closely. More comments here. Why do typhoons become very wide when they go to Japan or Korea or things like that? This is a very odd case in which it becomes super wide because of all this stalling and upwelling that's going on. Eye wall replacement cycles often do it. Generally, I guess when the energy decreases with lower sea surface temperatures, the storm's energy sort of fans out a bit more and disperses slowly but surely. Any other comments our team would like to make about that? Oh, they're all quiet.
What are we talking about? The width of the wind field?
Yeah, just why they go much larger when they go further north.
Yeah, it usually is to do with the eye wall replacement cycles. Well, this system specifically, it does look like it will be mainly due to the fact that mainly due to its eye wall replacement cycles constantly broadening out that that wind field. I know that eye wall replacement cycles do that quite a lot in many systems, but I'm not too knowledgeable on actually why in the Western Pacific. Why in the Western Pacific, the more north you get, the wider storms usually get when it comes to wind field. So
It's true in the Atlantic as well, though, you know.
yeah, yeah, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I just need to do a bit more research on that. But yeah, for one, I do know that the eye wall replacement cycles that Hinnamnor has been going through are enhancing that wind field, expanding.
Would just like to say, because I have seen a question about something mentioned earlier. Shanghai is expected to receive tropical storm force winds, and not typhoon force winds. However, that could change depending on the track of the system in the future.
They shouldn't get typhoon winds. There'd have to be a big westward shift, and if that did happen, the storm would weaken a lot more. So we'll see. How much rainfall will South Korea get from Typhoon Hinnamnor? Well, we saw there we're probably looking at upwards of 12 inches in some areas of South Korea, which is 300 millimeters. So we expect that large parts of South Korea, east and west, will get lots of rain. Western areas may be down to about 6 inches in the northwest, but it's too early to say properly. I believe right now we are also joined by Farhan, who we haven't seen in here for a long time, and you do have a few feedback issues, I gotta tell you. Are you there? Oh, I guess not. Well, we could hear his feedback just fine. More comments. Are the chances of landfall in China increasing? Did you read out that one before? Since the forecast cone shifted west. Well, they are. The chance of a landfall is still quite low. Very low, actually. But the chances that, I mean, it's bringing the chances of tropical storm force winds way up there, of course, as we've mentioned.
Nathan, just saw this comment. Do you remember what the wind will be in Busan in South Korea?
We can't rule out Category 3. So, what is that?
230 miles per hour.
Possibly towards 130 miles an hour. You can see the eye again here on this imagery with a bit of cloud obscuring it. Apart from that, though, it would be a very photogenic eye. It's clearing, still in the process of clearing, if you ask me.
Still, the structure of the storm looks quite impressive. With every frame, it continues to develop a better structure. However, in my opinion, I do believe that that will change within 24 hours.
Alright. Let's see if there's Nothing at my end. David, are you still with us? Do you have any other information right now?
International Space Station on the next run may fly closer to the Typhoon, but it still remains a monster, and no one could take their eyes off it, and a lot of nervous people in the path. But this southern jolt, it's got me interested, and the time of the curve. But as I said, it's a monster.
Certainly is. Someone was asking about the wind fields just before. So, latest numbers on the wind field. The northeast quadrant is 50 nautical miles out in radius, and that I'm going to try and convert to kilometers in real time, but that's quite difficult. That is probably about 100 kilometers. The southeast quadrant is 75 nautical miles, which is around 130 kilometers. The southwest quadrant is 80 nautical miles, which is around 140 kilometers, and the northwest is 60 nautical miles, which is roughly 115 to 120 kilometers. So that gives you an idea of its current size. That was as of the last update from the JTWC. And the Typhoon wind field extending out 25 to 30 nautical miles in all quadrants. So that is around
45 to 50 kilometers.
about 60 actually, because it's nautical miles being converted rather than statute miles, which is another source of confusion. All these conversions, we do our best to get through them all for you.
Too many scaling systems. Oh hey, my voice actually came through. Hello.
There we go, that's Farhan. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, my audio is not actually feeling too well because I'm not in my house. I've been in college. I've been staying in a boarding house, and it appears that the audio feedback from the internet within these walls is not very good. But yeah, it seems like that's Discord finally figured out how to fix that.
I have just seen a question. Typhoon Hinnamnor can form in Pacific hurricane.
What?
Come again.
That's the question. Typhoon Hinnamnor can form in Pacific hurricane. I'm guessing they mean, is there a chance it could form in the Eastern Pacific?
Or a storm like it.
But
It would be very outlandish. I think only the Western Pacific is capable of things like this, to be honest. Just getting a latest fix on its position to update our little inset on the screen. But once again, if you do have any more questions for us whilst we're on the air, we are here. We'll be covering all of the tropical zones in on our next hour of coverage as we take a look at our tropical weather bulletin. There's plenty of systems that are looking to form around the Atlantic and Pacific, East Pacific basins right now. So Hinnamnor is going to be joined by possibly multiple other storms in the next few days around the world.
Possibly.
Just a question from Tropical Storm Alan, or Alton, sorry. Will Typhoon Hinnamnor retire?
It's
Don't want to talk about retirement.
poor question to ask when the
Yeah.
storm is active.
We don't know. It's too early to ask that, considering that beyond rainfall, the storm hasn't exactly have a chance to really make significant impacts into the land area. It is possibly approaching right now. So come back in 2 weeks and maybe we have a discussion about it. But right now, no.
General movement, are we still looking at southwest? It looks like that to me.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's changed anything when it comes to its motion.
Oh, actually south-southwest.
Hmm.
Let me check some of the data and see if there's been a slowdown at all yet. It doesn't look like visually, but it can be deceptive. But no, it doesn't look like in the terms of the raw data it's slowing down, which means that it's going to lead us on this merry dance for a little bit longer as it continues southwards. The main question that we've got right now is, when will it stop moving southwards? When will it start to make that turn back towards the north?
We've just had, I believe it's a super chat. It's one of the chats there you get money. What do you think about having a no storm August? I'm guessing they mean. Actually, I don't know what they mean.
That was
I think
Walked
they're talking
Jungle,
about the Atlantic.
and thank you for your support as we're about to reach midnight UTC and the actual beginning of September. That will be a no storm August in the Atlantic.
Yes.
Um,
I'm back, by the way.
That's nice for a change.
Is it the East Pacific as well? Have they had one?
No, they've had one in August, I'm pretty
They
sure.
did.
They had, I bet, I think.
I do have a question, because obviously the National Hurricane Center should send out its next update in 15 minutes. If that did update, most likely 93L, because that's the high information.
It has
to a
updated.
tropical depression. Would that mean that we would still have a no storm August, or would that affect that?
It'll depend
has
who you
updated.
ask, but using universal time, I would say no.
It already has updated anyways.
All
Yes,
right,
it
so
has.
what's the info? May as well tell us.
No storm. You've had no storms.
Apparently, the storm in the
Same
North
thing.
Central Atlantic has a, if I'm correct, a 70-70 or 70-80.
70-80, that's 93L.
Yeah.
70-80, and then 91L is still at 60-80, which is interesting to say the least. And then you have, I believe, that's 92L, which is 40-40.
And we'll be able to talk about that a lot more in our tropical weather bulletin. That was the voice of Patrick, who's also just joined us. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And you were tracking the typhoon with us yesterday as well. What are your thoughts today?
The fact that it's regained Category 5 intensity does not surprise me, but also kind of worries me. I just wanted to ask a question. Did we receive any reports about major flooding on any islands so far, or have we not received confirmation about it?
Because I've looked at the NMK, I think that's the correct one, the Japan News Agency.
NHK.
And they did
NHK, yeah.
they did report, obviously, storm surge of 3 to 4 meters, quite a lot of rainfall, if I remember correctly. I don't have it up, but if I remember correctly, around 200 millimeters of rainfall. And they've also reported winds of up to 65 miles per hour, and the, I think it's the, I can't remember now, but they did report from someone that they did say that there was some flash flooding, some mudslides, and that flooding could still continue to affect the islands as the storm stalls and move more north. We've also got another super chat for £5 from Rodway, not related to this storm. But do you think after all this time, the Atlantic will have an above-average season? Keep up the good work, guys.
Thank you for your support, Rodway.
given the fact that we already have a not so active season, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's still going to be above average, because we're currently in a what we say a drought here, as there is a upper level low across the tropical Atlantic that is kind of steering storms out of the way to cause major impacts or tearing them apart. However, once shear decreases and once those sea surface temperatures continue to rise, I do think starting in September, maybe around the mid-September mark, we are going to see an absolute frenzy of storms.
It might still be above average, but I can guarantee you it won't be 20 plus storm. And if that happens, you guys could go ahead and pick a punishment for me for our usual year.
It will not be 20. It will not be another 2020 repeat. I can say that for a fact. However, it does have the potential to be still an above average season based on NOAA's forecast.
All right. We'll have plenty more chance to talk Atlantic stuff later on. But for the time being, until our tropical weather bulletin shortly, We're still keeping it locked on Typhoon Hinnamnor right now. If you've just joined us, we have upgraded it again to Category 5, 160 mile per hour winds, and a pressure estimate of 919 millibars. An extremely powerful storm, dangerous for East Asia, with rainfall threats, flooding threats, flash flooding threats, and of course its extremely powerful winds. Thankfully though, the nearest point of land now is 220 kilometers, so nowhere is feeling the strongest winds of the storm, and it is drifting just a little bit further away from Miyakojima all the while, and that is the closest point of land, about 220 kilometers. Still moving southwest, although possibly south-southwesterly now, and it's going to be interesting to see whether it just does a flat-out stall and just stops in place and then turns northwards, or whether it's going to do a bit of a loop-the-loop and then turn back eastwards, or the JTWC still think it will loop back westwards rather than east. So big question marks over its near-term forecast, Daniel.
Sure is.
Did you want to say something? I set up a lovely segue for you there.
It's a lovely segue. I was just replying, sure is.
I tell you what. It's remarkable how south the storm has jogged. It's gotten so far south that if it continues at this trajectory, although it probably won't, the northern islands just of the Philippines, whose name I can't pronounce, will also get quite a lot of impact in terms of rain and stuff. And that's quite remarkable. So if the forecast is true that the storm will continue to jog south and then shoots back north, we'll be looking at an impact trail from just north of the Philippines all the way up to Russia, which is quite remarkable if you would take a look at this grand scheme of things.
Well, if we look at your radar right now, Daniel, you'll see if you scroll downwards a little bit, the Batanes Islands of the Philippines are about to get a bit of rain.
Yes.
Or are doing already, actually, maybe.
Yeah.
Go further south, you'll see them over there. Yep, Basco.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
A little
There
bit.
might be a TCWS #1 issue in the Batanes Island, according to Lovely, our moderator in the Batanes Island.
That would not shock me. Has been issued, did you say?
No, might be a race. Oh, might be a race over northern Luzon. Okay, that's gonna be even more interesting.
All right then, and you were just panning in on I forget the name of that western island, Takitomi, showing...
Yeah, I was about to ask you how you pronounce that.
I don't even know if I'm right, so don't ask me. Getting a lot of rain right now.
Yeah, it's been in that band for at least an hour or two.
We just got another super chat for $2 from Nadami Racing. Do you believe it's a Category 5 right now?
Thanks for the support,
Yes.
Nadami Racing, and I think the general consensus in our team is yes. I mean, I think people would acknowledge that me personally, I've been lowballing it in their eyes a little bit, but I'm going with Category 5, so I think it's quite clear.
I mean, looking at structure, in my opinion, I also do believe it's Category 5.
Yeah, I do. I think it's Category 5 as well. And that's rare with me because normally I don't want to think normally that things are Category 5 and are as dangerous as they are.
Is Hinnamnor one of those confusing storms that we take each piece of information with a pinch of sand?
Just sand.
To an
Pinch of
extent.
sand, that's a first.
Sand. Yeah.
I've
I've
never
heard
heard
of salt, but not sand.
Some people say that.
you should
To an
probably focus
extent,
on the question.
the actual track is a big question mark right now with the uncertainty of its movement. You look at this right now and you could argue, I mean, if you just take one, maybe if you didn't have your contacts in or whatever, you might think that this is actually a storm in reverse. It's moving south-southwest, where usually you'd see a storm moving north-northeast in this area, if anything. But it's going the wrong way right now, and it will eventually stall and then turn round and go northwards, and that's giving us lots of confusion over its trajectory. Because obviously when a storm is moving more slowly and going all kinds of different directions, it's much more difficult to forecast than a storm that's staying pretty level on its course.
Just another question from Jumi is cool 69. It looks
Nice.
like the eyeball's in the collapse soon.
People call it eyeball. I just have to
Eyeball.
have a bit of
No,
amusement
they're
over
plural, eyeballs. It's plural.
that. Well, let's not get hung up over that. But it's not. It's still clearing out, actually, and it is succeeding in doing that. It is still clearing out. I don't see any signs of collapse anytime soon.
If you do have any other questions, make sure to put at 413.
Try to get to you.
Yeah, sometimes the chat flows too fast, and we sometimes miss some
Especially when
questions,
we
but-
have several hundreds of you in the chat.
213 according to my device.
But we don't really look at the numbers when we're streaming. But in any case, we're about to move on to our tropical weather bulletin soon, and we'll be focusing on everything that's around the world on a broad lens, looking at all tropical activity, including Hinnamnor, of course, with more information on that. And of course, our live coverage will continue throughout the several days that this storm will be active. This is going to be here for the long haul. Potentially up to 6 or 7 more days left of this storm before it finally perishes up along the coast of Russia.
Wow, thank you for telling me how many more streams I have to do.
Yes, it's going to be quite
Hey,
a lot, sadly.
it's called 12 more streams for me.
It could
Matthew?
be. Who knows?
I'm doing every 12 hours.
We did a lot of streaming during Matthew, yeah. Let's go back to the latest geocolor imagery and see how it's looking on the visible. That's usually where it looks, some people might say, the prettiest. But it also can show you just that higher level cloud that's injected in the eye at the moment that the storm is trying to clear out. When that happens, which I think will be quite inevitable and will happen fairly soon, that it will clear out and it will look really impressive. But honestly, it would look really impressive if that cloud wasn't in the way. It does already. It's just waiting for us to see it properly. But there we have it. We're going to take a short break here. I think our team need it after several issues towards the start of our broadcast, which weren't of my fault at all. But we'll figure it all out, and we're getting somewhere. We'll have our tropical weather bulletin coming up shortly, which will focus on everything around the world. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few moments. Our live coverage will continue in a moment. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Tonight, Hinnamnor back to Category 5 status. And now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Live tropical weather bulletin for September 1st. And with the start of the month, we have more activity. Code red, of course, for Hinnamnor, a Category 5 south of Miyakojima. And our team have declared a new tropical storm in the southwest Indian Ocean, number 51 of the season. In the Atlantic, it's day 93 of hurricane season, with two 80% chances in the Atlantic. First of all, further north in the subtropics, and one near the Lesser Antilles, a 50% near Cape Verde. So, could this be the beginning of the next stage of the Atlantic hurricane season? Day 110 in the Eastern Pacific, and we have a high chance of development off the coast of Mexico, 80% of a new potential tropical cyclone, and a 40% area further towards the east. That system could develop towards the end of that 5-day period. And in the Western Pacific, Super Typhoon Hinnamnor is still being harassed by the remnants of 13W, well to its east, and they're interacting, and that's why Hinnamnor's path is so erratic right now, and we'll talk about that a lot more throughout this hour. And a surprise tropical storm for the second time this early season in the southwest Indian Ocean has made itself known. Well out there over the open waters, away from any land areas, but still something interesting to monitor. Well then, that's the tropical weather bulletin summed up, and to talk about it all right now is once again my team back in the studio. My name is Nathan Foy, here to talk about Hinnamnor and all of the other activity that's currently going on, and I'm joined by my team this hour. We have Joey, Taniel, David, Christian, Farhan, Gizmo and Jose, and welcome back everyone else. Let's not play that. Welcome back to everyone else watching tonight / this morning, wherever you are around the world. It's 9:03 in Japan, and that's where we're concentrating on with Typhoon Hinnamnor, with its eye becoming increasingly more clear now. Category 5 we're declaring, but also so many more things to track around the tropics. Let's begin with Taniel, who is showing us some satellite imagery across the Atlantic.
Yeah, I love how I pull that off literally as I'm adjusting stuff for my stream. Anyway,
Sorry about that.
every single time, inconvenient. Currently we're looking at mainly that's the most apparent is 91L. Invest 91L. Kind of.
The one there is 91L.
Yeah, the one that's going towards the Leeward Islands,
Yep.
or just slightly north of the Leeward Islands. This storm, as you can see in the past loop, it's kind of degraded in convection in the last few hours. However, don't let that fool you, because these storms can rapidly flare in convection once again, which we're still waiting for that one ginormous flare to kick the storm initially into a tropical storm.
And you can see it on this satellite imagery as well, struggling with its convection and its rotation a little bit. Does this go north enough? We can't see the other system. Can you see that other system right now?
I can on the stream.
Where is
Let
it?
me.
Oh, is it that
far.
thing there?
It's very far north.
No, it's not that. It's well to the northeast of that.
On Taniel's stream.
Let's go back to that. Oh yeah, you're looking up there too. Yeah, you can see a little, yep, hovering around it there.
There, that little thing.
It's a surprise. It's a surprise system.
So that's what
Yes,
we're looking at for
gonna go
potential
towards
to
the Azores.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be the most threat, probably.
I mean, further models
To
such as
land.
the European model, the Metalfist model, the FS, so on, do have it after the Azores, possibly hit northern Spain, possibly at an extratropical point. Also, some hints that it could be subtropical at this point, before entering the Bay of Biscay. Some models do take it further north towards the UK, Brittany, after it affects the Azores.
Let me see if I can get a better view here.
Whilst we wait on that, I'll just show the other system, which is supposed to be showing up, but is in fact not. Oh, there it is. Off the coast of Africa, near Cape Verde, we've got that other area of interest that has been given a 50% by our team right now, and that is likely to not hang around for that long and probably be a weaker storm, and has a lower chance right now. Back to Daniel showing us this imagery.
Yes,
which is quite fascinating.
This is the last 24 hours. I forgot I left it on this loop, but nonetheless, still interesting to look at its flight development, and I would say it peaked during daylight, at least in structure, because it looked like it kind of lost part of its side towards the west.
So that's definitely the northern system that they've given a high chance for, right?
Yes.
Very interesting.
If you look closely, you could see the center pretty defined because it looked like an eye feature, which it
for a brief moment.
For a brief moment. It's brief here, but if I go back, we'll see that right around here. That thing.
And just zoom right back out again to just get us our bearings on where it is on in the world. So
very small.
Yep.
It's in the middle of nowhere.
The middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
I mean, pretty much. It is sort of near the geographical middle of the Atlantic. North Atlantic.
Let me
there it is
make
again.
sure this is a slightly smaller loop so it doesn't kill my PC in the process. But this is what we're looking at here. As time goes on, you kind of see the center is half exposed, I guess. You can obviously see the low level center spinning off. So it lost some of its higher elevation cloud tops on the more western side, but still fighting.
I'm sure it will start again soon.
I'm pretty sure I know why, because if you look just north of it, it looks like a little bit of shear is attacking it.
Yes, you're
right. For a system like this, since it's so small, in general of small systems, they can't really fight off shear that well compared to bigger storms. Now, with a smaller storm, once it is away from the shear, it could also intensify very quick. Like we've seen on with the Typhoon.
Yeah, of course. Intensified super quickly.
This is from NOAA with I think it's NOAA, but it's a share map of the Atlantic, and if I'm looking at the correct area, it's facing moderate to unfavourable conditions at 20, 30 knots of wind shear.
Right. It must be getting more favourable soon, though.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they wouldn't give it an 80%.
By the looks of it, it does look like it's trending towards neutral to favourable conditions.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Alright then. Let's see if we can look now at the Eastern Pacific, can we? Where are we looking here? Well, that's the Typhoon again. I'm just waiting for my next imagery. Oh, well, there's a very wide shot of... There it is.
I have the invest pulled to.
You've got a close-up view showing us that invest right now. A very broad system as far as I can establish.
Yes, I cannot identify a center, but I can see obviously the rough spin in it. It looks, from what I'm getting, it's somewhere within the recent blast of convection, is where I would have to take a guess. So, if I'm correct about that, by just looking at the spin out here, then that's a very lopsided storm right now.
And they're going 80% on that as well.
Interesting.
And then you've got this potential system starting further east, of which you might actually see there's some convection spilling off the coast of, I think that is Chiapas, Mexico, well to the east of the invest. And that is something that we're watching out for our next potential system later on down the line.
This right here? This.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I saw that. I was in the model runs. Isn't that storm showing in some model runs going right up
Yeah.
the coast up here? And
Yes.
just fighting up all the way up towards California
Tries
border?
to make it to California, yeah.
Just by the way, they have given that system now a 0-50% chance of formation.
National
Trying to
Hurricane
look.
Center.
Oh, yeah, from National Hurricane Center.
I'm looking at satellite, and you obviously see the rough low-level center rotation. Me trying to pinpoint estimated guess, kind of still where I would think it's probably right in here, but not defined since it's a very broad bit of spool of convection. Who knows? It could also be two different storms that could break off.
They must expect it to begin organising soon because they've given it an 80-90% chance of National Hurricane Center.
Wait a minute. I just need to look at a faster loop, but give me a sec.
80-90, oh, that's interesting.
What's that?
80-90 for something like that.
Yeah, they must really expect it to organise.
Right now I'm starting to find the spin.
I mean, there was a 90% that busted earlier in the year.
Good point.
Okay, from what I'm seeing on rotation-wise here, it's right about where my cursor is.
We do have a super chat from Nadami Racing, $2. Will there be one Cat 5 storm like 03 or 04? Nice job.
Oh, you mean like in the Atlantic seasons 03 or 04? Can't rule it out. I don't think it will happen, just based on what I've seen so far and the patterns. I guess if it does, it would have to be in probably the Western Caribbean.
I don't think that 91 now, which I would say would be the strongest out of all the AOIs currently in the Atlantic, would be able to reach Cat 5 status, considering it's heading not really into a zone where it will still intensify, but it won't enter into, for example, the Caribbean or the Gulf of Mexico, which has high SSTs, low wind shear, high potential, high ocean heat content. It will still be a powerful system, models Cat 2, possibly Cat 3, but I don't think it'll be able to get to a Category 5 status.
God forbid the Atlantic have something to shout out right after a huge drought period.
There's been a comment there actually about whether we're going to do Caribbean weather on the US and Caribbean channel. We should. We don't have much resources for the US channel at the moment, but we're hoping to build that back up as we enter next year. So a bit of a wait on, but hopefully we'll get things going properly there soon. if anyone does want to help out with the US channel or with any of our other regional channels, we have quite a few. We have Europe, we have the Philippines, we have the UK and Ireland, and we have Australia and Oceania. And I did notice, yes, Sebastian, thank you very much for your support. And a question, 2022 will be the third year on, actually it's a comment, will be a third year on record where the North Atlantic didn't have a system in August, the other two being 1997 and 1961. Tells you a lot about where we are in the Atlantic this year.
That's a nice change.
Although 1961 went crazy after this. Or was that 1960? I can't remember which year it was now.
Okay.
I think it was 61.
Yes, it was.
It is
important.
Ooh.
Sorry, go ahead and then I'll introduce Ethan.
I was about to say, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like
It's interesting it's important to note that just although I am very much all for a dead Atlantic after 5 years of pretty much above average activity, it is still important to note that it is still possible within the remaining 3 months of the season for the basin to pop off and produce a lot of storms. It most likely won't be 20 plus, but there is precedent for there to be a lot of storm in a short period of time frame.
Absolutely.
Just look at 2004. Just look at 2004 for an example. So, although I am all for a dead Atlantic, there is still a chance that it won't be so dead overall as a season.
1961, no storms in August, as said, but then September alone had Betsy, Carla, Debbie, Esther, all of which Category 4, Cat 1, Cat 5. Even going into October, November, you had Frances, Category 4, Hattie, Category 5, Jenny, a Category 1. So it really did just, after August, where there was no systems, there, as said, precedent for it to just explode in activity.
We'll see. Let's go to Ethan. Welcome, and unsurprisingly, you're looking at the Pacific, Eastern Pacific.
Yeah, I've been here for about 20 minutes now. But yeah, you wanted East Pacific imagery, and well, I'm here to deliver. And there's a look at that system. Got some sort of low-level center developing with it. Developing quite nicely, if you ask me. National Hurricane Center do give it, 80% in the next 48 hours, 90 in the next 5 days?
Yes.
Yep.
I probably wouldn't go that aggressive, but certainly well on its way to becoming a tropical cyclone. And then there's this system going to develop probably from this mess over here in western Nicaragua, and that could contribute to something later down the line. We'll have to wait and see with that, but I can try to pull up the Atlantic here too. We'll have to wait and switch to infrared here.
Had a super chat for $5 from Sebastian. What do you think about the GFS showing that second AOI in the EPAC forming and hitting Mexico? Do you think it could hit Mexico or not?
It's possible. But
yeah, close pass, I suppose.
Anyway, here's what is this number? 91L, I think. I've lost count. There's so many active. Yeah, 91L. Losing some thunderstorm activity. I imagine due to that wall of wind shear that it's got to go through.
Yes.
So it's still going to take its time. And then up here, there's 93L. Looking okay, I guess. And then there's this system emerging off of Africa down there that looks dreadful.
Let's go back to Hinnamnor for a little bit, because it's been a while since we last spoke about it. Ethan, your thoughts on it right now? Clearing out, it's looking quite impressive with this eye. Eye temperature, I imagine, is still going up. I haven't actually checked in a little while. Let me have a little look.
It did go down for a little bit, but it's come back up in the recent frames. Still looking absolutely fantastic. Well deserving of Cat 5 intensity, but I would bet that it's probably still maintaining around 160 miles per hour. Probably not intensifying just yet because it's still working out its eye. But once it works out that eye, then intensification should resume in earnest.
You're right, eye temperature has gone down a little bit. It is about 16 degrees now. Earlier it peaked at 19.
That was primarily because the eye clouded over, but it's now clearing again.
Well, I'm still on about only in the last hour it was 19. But certainly improving once again. And becoming wider, it would seem, as well.
Yeah, which is, I believe, a pretty standard thing for hour replacement cycles, if I stand corrected, right?
Yes. Some more questions. Does Hinnamnor have lightning? Now, lightning would be indicative of either a very powerful storm or a strengthening storm.
It has isolated lightning in the eye wall. However, not too much. It's lighting up the whole eye wall. Flight Sim would tell you a different story, but
Right. Well, that doesn't tell us a huge amount then. And questions about the CDPS score for the storm. Now, we don't calculate CDPS anymore. That was Devon's bag. We could actually do it because we still have the technique to actually find out what it is, but no one's actually taken that upon themselves. But I would imagine it is a pretty high scoring thing.
Well, the
Certainly
thing
on
is, though, it's Devon's scale, I know, because Devon's.
Certainly on our Tico scale, it is code red, so it's pretty severe. Is there a chance that this storm could go below 900 millibars?
I mean, what's it right now? It's 19, I believe?
Yeah,
I mean,
919.
personally, I don't think it will go under 900 millibars because realistically, I think the most generous 24, 36 hours to continue intensifying before it begins to stall, before it begins to weaken. So personally, I don't think it would reach below 200 millibars. It could still get
900.
lower than estimate, but I don't think it will get below 900 millibars.
Yeah.
also Nathan, check live output.
What have we got?
Tristan has been DMing me stuff.
I don't really want to show that because it includes
Yeah,
chat
I know,
messages
but
in it.
I know, but you can at least read out the rough what you're getting from it.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, I probably wouldn't, to be honest.
Now, we should... apparently, someone sent in a message saying that there's a new microwave image out. Does anyone have that?
I did see it in the Discord server. Let me quickly grab it. One moment.
We'll wait for that for a moment. Also, another comment. What is the sea surface temperature where Hinnamnor is now? I think it must be still near 30 degrees.
I think it's around that 29-30.
It's got to be around, 29-30.
Unless it stalls, I don't think sea surface temperature would really be a problem all the way through for this storm. That is unless it actually decided to just stall in place here.
I've got that microwave imagery up now.
And it isn't doing that yet.
Tristan,
it is still moving south-southwest.
What he mainly wanted me to show you, Nathan, is the the 3 images, which I'd send them separately. Give me a sec.
Please do. Joey, this microwave imagery, what do you make of that?
It's
microwave.
Yeah, definitely is what I expected, showing quite a robust core from that. Let me try and see if I can find the low-level core microwave imagery, a different color scheme of it. Should be somewhere here.
No problem. We'll get onto that in a moment. Once again, we're looking here at the geocolor satellite imagery of the storm's eye, becoming ever more well defined by the looks of things to me. Trying to clear out that high cloud cover, and it's slowly managing to do that.
Sent the 2 images in the live output.
Starting to look very impressive, and I honestly, when we look back at this satellite imagery, I'm sure someone on our team will make the satellite imagery animation. You'll just see that eye going and going and going for so long. Just crazy. Joey, back to you.
Yeah, so this is, I believe, showing the system's core on the lower levels, this color scheme here. Please do correct me if I'm wrong. But it does show that the eyewall may be struggling a little bit within the system. At least that's what I'm gathering.
From half an hour ago as well, so not that old. Yeah, hard to tell. In about 10 minutes time, we will be looking at our models around the world, and I'm sure that will throw up a few things. Way out to the 16-day period, the most comprehensive look at the GFS model you'll find tonight, probably. And then after that, we will probably have some more stuff to show you too. For the time being, though, this storm, if you've just joined us, has sustained winds of around 160 miles per hour. That's roughly 260 kilometers per hour sustained winds, with an estimated central pressure of 919 millibars. Now, something that we haven't yet gone over, and we really should, is that our team have declared that a new tropical storm has formed in the southwest Indian Ocean. Could anyone take us to some imagery of that? I know it might take a few minutes for you to get your imagery up, but we really want to see how that looks right now. A new tropical storm, apparently, in the southwest Indian Ocean, and that would mark the second early season storm this year. This season.
Thing?
So Nathan, question for you.
I can't see your screen.
Yeah, I know. I'm not
Okay.
screen sharing.
Oh.
I was talking to Daniel.
Do you want me to? Because I know that some people might be wondering why we call this a tropical storm. Do you want me to post you that ASCAP pass so that you can pull it up on screen?
Oh, all right. Yeah, we can dissect that too. So Daniel's showing us this imagery right now, showing us this new tropical cyclone. On the top right-hand corner, you can see the islands of Indonesia, Sumatra, and I think where it says West Island, is that the Cocos Islands?
Zoom in for you. Maybe.
Yes, that is the Cocos Island. It is.
So the Cocos Islands there, so that's the closest point of land. It's quite a bit to its west, and it looks the part for a tropical cyclone. 1st of September, which is a crazy date to see a tropical cyclone in this part of the world, except this year, where we saw one a few weeks ago, at an even crazier time of year, and now it appears we've got another one.
Nathan, the BI I've been monitoring that area for the last 2 weeks. The cyclone Genesis is still looking healthy. BI Meteorology now has it on its northern area high seas forecast at 18 UTC. East to southeasterly trade winds becoming northerly quarter winds west of 96 degrees east due to a shallow tropical low to the west of the area, and the Bureau is forecasting the system to move slowly south. The tropical cyclone warning centers Perth. Their 3-day cyclone page is operational, so around 14:30 WA time. They might have something on it, but I'm not surprised that it's developed, and there was a bit of rotation yesterday, so I'm not surprised that Force 13 has updated its position on it, and I'm
Nadami
keeping
Racing.
a close eye on it.
Thank you once again for your support, Nadami Racing. Will the storm be like Emily 05? Will it be intense? If you're referring to any of those Atlantic storms, the answer is definitely no. And to be honest, if it's any other storm, then the answer is really no as well. Ethan, we're looking at the ASCAP pass right now. Did you want to talk about it?
Yeah, you can see that that there is clearly a center of circulation there in the top right corner of that ASCAP pass, and just south of those black barbs. I don't know if you can make it out, but those are brown barbs, which are actually indicative of 35 knot winds. So obviously, it has the wind speed, it has the circulation. Does it have the convection in it? It absolutely does over the center. So as such, we called it a tropical cyclone. And normally, this ASCAP material usage satellite thing, I don't know what to call it really, but it normally underestimates the wind speeds by 5 knots or so. So we added 5 knots onto that, and that's how we got our current estimate of 45 miles per hour and a pressure of 998 millibars. But this is certainly pretty surprising to see 2 early season Southern Hemisphere tropical storms in August. I can't remember the last time that this has ever happened, if it had even happened at all before.
It's September 1st over here now. It's already well September 1st, technically, if you want to go by the region time.
They marked it
was
6 hours ago, didn't they? Which on UTC was still in August, but that's just semantics.
I think so, but in the time zone by that point. But this ASCAP pass, it is worth noting that it was from 1530Z, so I think this has been a tropical storm all day today, probably. Maybe earlier than that.
It's important to tell for any new viewers coming to the stream, for if you are new, if you're not familiar with where we operate, this is our words, not the words of the official agencies here, because the Southern Hemisphere Agency is admittedly can be very finicky with what they consider to be a tropical cyclone and what is not, and so it's been decided that for us to give our own words, our own judgment on these storms, rather than relying on the officials, which can be very irritating to follow for most. So I just want to put that out there for any new viewers in the stream right now.
People are asking for the name of that storm. It doesn't have one, and that's what Farhan was touching on there. They've not recognized it officially.
Yeah, it's not. It's not recognized. It won't be named.
The absolutely crazy thing is this has been like this or near tropical storm in status for 3 to 4 days, and JTWC haven't even noticed it at all. This is crazy.
Well, there it is. That's the new tropical storm that we're noting here in the Southwest Indian Ocean. That's probably the last we'll speak of it today. Let's go back to Hinnamnor right now, the Category 5 Super Typhoon, around about 230 kilometers south of Miyakojima, and it still looks like it's progressing south-southwestwards at this time. About 5 minutes, we'll take a look at all the models. In the meantime, let's try and get some more questions. Such as, are we planning to make any tornado track animations? A little bit out of left field question there. I think some people are working on whether that might be possible or not in our team. And what are the records for the Southwest Indian Ocean in terms of how many pre-season storms there were or already is? And I don't know the answer to that either, I'm afraid. I've not looked but it's very rare to see this. I mean, this could, for all I know, this could be a record right now. I'm not sure. More comments here. Justin Wilson says, Hurricane Chaser Chase has Super Typhoon Hinnamnor at 165 miles per hour. Any thoughts on that, team?
That's up to each person's judgment. although considering it's only 2 millibars and 5 miles an hour, I don't think it's really worth arguing or discussing about, because for a storm at this stage of its life, it really doesn't matter what category, what millibars it is. It is a big storm, it is a dangerous storm, it is a storm that has to be watched out for. That's the long and short of it.
I agree with that, and even so, looking at its structure, I could see it being 165, 917 millibars, because, as said, there isn't much difference to it, and it has an impressive structure, so it could be a bit stronger, could even be a bit weaker, but either way, it's still a very dangerous situation.
Yep. Sure is.
Joey, let's take a look at the latest viewpoint over there. Where was this again?
This was in Ishigaki, but
And
I
it just
think
stopped working.
yeah, you've just caught me at the worst time.
A very bad time.
I think it.
Before it stopped.
Yeah, not sure what's going on, but it keeps buffering. Not sure whether that's YouTube or not, because it does seem like it's still going or
Fairly
it's still
calm.
live. Yeah, fairly calm. It's been continuously and steadily raining, however, and that isn't necessarily that isn't good for when the main bout of rainfall comes over this part of the Okinawa Islands, because you have this really saturated ground which the rain is going to be falling on, and that would just lead to exacerbations when it comes to flooding issues and landslides. But at the moment, it doesn't look too bad at this area.
And that is almost the closest point to the storm as well.
Yep. So lucky catch with this webcam.
About
There aren't
250
many in the
kilometers
area.
from the eye. But what we might notice, Joey, is that even if the storm continues moving south a bit and its massive growth in size, conditions might actually get worse as the storm moves away here.
Yeah, I have been noticing the winds have been picking up slowly but surely throughout the last couple of hours. I've had this on in the background, just observing, and that is something that I've noticed.
And then when it moves back, it will certainly get worse.
Mm.
As we mentioned before, it's still about 2.5 days away from its closest pass to these islands, Miyakojima, Ishigaki, and then we'll move into the East China Sea. In a few moments, we'll take a look at the latest models to detail all of that with you again, along with a lot more. Let's see if there's some more comments right now. Is there room for more intensification of Hinnamnor, and what prediction of its peak? Right now, it's already unexpected from the agencies that it would re-intensify at this point. So you would think, team, that intensification can't last that much longer, or are we thinking differently here?
I mean, I could see intensifying a tiny bit more, but I've said earlier, really only has 24, optimistically 36 hours of possible intensification left before it begins weakening.
Alright. Any other comments from our team?
I think it's still got a few hours, and
I'm trying to tell. Oh, keep going.
we know that it's got to slow down, and that's another key component is the timing and quasi-stationary and the upwelling. But I think it will weaken a little bit, but I think it's still got a few hours to go up the scale.
Now let's
I'm
cross...
trying.
Sorry?
I was about to say, I'm trying to see if it's starting its movement towards the west. I think it's still going south right now. But I feel like it's about to. start its at least probably southwest.
Now let's
movement
cross to the
again.
International Space Station, which is possibly headed over the storm. I'm just trying to figure out where we are here. It is approaching the storm's area, and whether it reaches it exactly on. We don't have the wide shot because I think there's a spacecraft in the way.
Yes, there is.
I
Like a
think
dragon.
it's just emerged off China there, actually. That looks like the coast of China near Shanghai. So we're going to get pretty close to the storm here, I think. So let's keep watching this as we look down from the International Space Station. We might get a good shot of the storm. So you see a lot of nice little clouds over the waters of the East China Sea there. And eventually it will start to get filled with the outer bands and its influence of this enormous and strong typhoon. If it's clear skies, you might see some of these islands, the Ryukuu Islands, although it's getting increasingly cloudier as we move along. This is live in real time right now.
About 27 north, 127 east.
I have no idea and no guarantee whether it will actually reach whether we'll see the typhoon or not. So I've no idea, but we'll just see what we can see.
Actually,
There's an island that's starting to appear on my screen's a little bit ahead of you. Let's just shrink this down a bit so we can see everything. There's some of the Ryukuu Islands. That looks like Miyakojima, possibly. And now it looks like we're entering the bands of the typhoon. Over here, there we go. Or what is that? Hold on a minute. That sort of looks like a circulation. Is that the 13W? I don't know.
Oh dear.
Oh, it could be.
It could be.
It looks.
That looks like it's north of the actual CDO of Hinnamnor.
Oh, it's hard to
It
tell the
does look
scale
like-
on this. Oh, here's the bulk of the typhoon. Hold on. Is it?
Yeah.
Or is it a band? I think it's just a band.
Oh, is that
Oh,
the
it looks
eye there?
promising.
Actually, we're close to it.
Nice.
I
promising.
don't know.
I thought that was
Maybe
the
that's
eye.
it. That
It looks
maybe.
cloud.
Lots
Cloud.
of cloud. Yeah, that's for
It
sure.
looks cloud. It looks cloud.
I think that was the northern edge of the typhoon, most likely.
Looks like we're
Yeah,
going to miss
there's-
the eye. I think it's going to be off the shot to the bottom, I think.
Yeah.
Well, it
That's a
looks
shame.
very nice and cloudy and very much
I
cloud.
think the eye is just to the south.
Yeah.
Inner eye wall, I think, is just visible there.
I mean, still
Possibly.
a wonderful image of the system, despite it not going over the eye.
So I just thought I'd share that with everyone. That was some
Yeah.
live footage from the International Space Station looking straight down, passing very close to the center of the typhoon from what I saw, but not quite an eye pass.
Sadly.
Now we're looking towards its southeastern bands.
Look nice.
And these will contain lots of rain predominantly, with probably gale force winds underneath these clouds.
Mm-hmm. On my own stream, I have the ISS pulled up in the corner. So I actually might leave that running.
They do provide some amazing views of the whole world.
Honestly, I would love to go up there for a few days, but I would not prefer doing like space walks. However, I don't know. I don't know
It'd be a
necessarily.
challenge.
Yeah, as
I'd
long
love
as
to
long
be
as
up
I'm
there.
fully strapped in.
Well, that's the
on
thing.
a very on a no,
That's-
not just the normal kind of hose that stretches out a long way. A very short knows?
Looking down on the earth.
Well, that's
and-
the thing. That's the thing with spacewalks. You're strapped in. You're safe. They're hardly gonna leave you behind.
Until you have a jetpack that's RCS driven, which was a thing.
Right.
Anyhow,
I could
Really
get,
wasn't
Nathan.
in
let's not
space.
get sidetracked, guys.
I could get the
Nathan,
anxiety about it.
on the stream at the south bottom left, not the side thing, the bottom left on the image. What is that called?
What's what called? I'm sorry, I didn't follow.
So on the bottom left, not including the side bit, there's like the white red imagery where
Yeah,
it's
the
like
Typhoon.
curd
Infrared.
red. What is that called?
That's our
Infrared
little
imagery.
inset. The infrared imagery.
Thanks. Because on the infrared, the eye looks like it's getting a lot better recently.
Oh yeah, look at
I
that.
think
It looks like it's starting to get circular formation, getting less oblong, more circular, more clear than before. So the structure looks a lot better on that imagery.
Alright, well at this point we're a bit late. It's time to get on to the models. I might have to speed run this a little bit. So we've got our Atlantic first of all. So first you can see this system, that is 91L, expected to go that way. Up here, I think that's the one we're monitoring. It'll become very clear shortly. And the other one is somewhere around here, I think. So those are the three systems we're watching. Watch those parts of the image and see what happens. So yes, already by 1 day out, you can see that the first one to develop is the top one, a compact tropical storm that forms, and 91L might be just about to get ready to form as well by that point. Let's see what happens into day 2. So both those storms start getting going really, and look at the northerly one becomes a hurricane. This is by the evening of the 4th and into the 5th now, so that's 4 days from now, and you can see 2 simultaneous hurricanes. What a sight to behold in the Atlantic. We haven't seen that for a little while. Both category 1s and both remaining out to sea. Off they go, continuing through the time period. But then what happens to that northerly one? In fact, what happens to both of them? The northerly one is going off limits by the looks of things. It's heading towards Spain. Nope, it curves around, becomes much larger, slowly transitions to post-tropical, and then, oh my goodness, what happened there? The next hurricane sort of breaks up almost spontaneously, but a front comes in, and
Whoa,
that's quite
what?
crazy. I'm not sure that will
Oh, wow.
happen. Something survives out of that, and it continues on towards our British Isles. Anyway, there that goes. But the other system, not much hope on the GFS model for that, but in long range, another one forms at low latitude. And where's that headed? This is very long range, don't put any faith into it. Oh, it's another nothing event actually. So for US impacts, are there any over that period? Closer to home for the US? No, nothing at all. Or for any land areas really, apart from potentially Europe. Let's check the Eastern Pacific. Already you can quite clearly see this trail all linking up to this potential tropical cyclone, and watch this area as well for potentially that next one behind it. Let's have a look then. Running the simulation, you can see it really tries to get itself together, a very broad system in the Eastern Pacific there. Misses the Baja California Peninsula and it's gone out there. But then this next system could be a threat to Mexico, the coastline there, and that also tries to become a really big thing and very disorganized throughout its whole life there, but it does have tropical storm force winds and nearly becomes a hurricane at one point, and so there could be some impacts along the coast of Mexico. It would be if that was to come to pass. Also, lots of heavy rainfall too, no doubt, from those storms. Central Pacific, any sign of Hone out to day 16?
No.
No.
Oh,
Let's just check Eastpac for that day 16 as well. Any sign of anything? No, not there either. So now let's go to the main deal here, Hinnamnor. and its accomplice 13W, which is apparently here, and Hinnamnor of course is there, and they'll do a big merry dance. What am I drawing there? That's nothing to do with the track. That's not right at all. Hinnamnor's track does that and then goes back, or it might go like that and go that way, or it might just stop and completely go that way. Who knows? But the other system will do a lap around it, orbiting it, and you can see how its relationship changes, and then just how large this storm gets. And then 2.5 days from now it makes its closest pass to Miyakojima as a strong category 3, then into the South China Sea, much stronger, category 4 there again, a pressure
East
down
China
into
Sea.
East China
The
Sea.
South China Sea is
Pressure down into the 910s, a wind speed of 130 miles per hour, category 4. Off it goes further north into Korea, slams into South Korea there, and gives typhoon force winds to Japan as well. Very strong, high-end category 3 when it does that, if that scenario comes to pass. And that is actually only 4 days from now, according to that. And then off it goes towards Russia. So something really important that we've got to note with this, with the track of this storm. There it is, depicting an extremely powerful landfall for Korea. But as we know with these forecasts, there's the track depicted by a GFS. There is an amount of uncertainty. The storm could still go right up the western coast of Korea, or it could go much further east and affect the rest of Japan. Either way, it would appear that there is no way out of a major typhoon heading up this way. Whether it makes landfall as a major is a big question mark. Even if it doesn't though, storm surge is going to be enormous. With the size of that storm, the size of its wind field, it's going to be massive. Other storms forming, let's see if anything happens after that. Not really. Just at the very end there, something for Vietnam, right at the very end of that run. Actually a weak system there near Japan, but that is still over 10 days out. Indian Ocean, GFS certainly picks up on that storm. Not sure if it has a circulation on that, but certainly the tropical storm force winds, and it doesn't have very long to live when you look at that model run. What happens next though? Oh look, another one tries its luck in about 4 days from now and tries to become a tropical cyclone. Looks like it has less of a chance than the current one does. And let's just check, oops, let's just check the North Indian Ocean. I'm sure I saw something. Oh my goodness, it's trying to form 2 systems at once in the Bay of Bengal. Well, that's clever, and it looks like that might occur, and that is 8 days from now, so it's still quite a long way. GFS has a reputation for always forming North Indian Ocean storms. I don't know about that. South Pacific, just on the off chance we might see something, no. Just check some of the more odd areas, the South Atlantic, no. So apart from all that, it's looking calm in the southern hemisphere. Now back to Hinnamnor, let's take a look at the rainfall expectations once again, and you will see here where the storm stalls. I mean, currently its location is somewhere around here, just guessing. Expected to go down and probably around and back up that way. And so the highest rainfall values will be on the eastern side of the storm as usual, this area here, and those are the areas where we're seeing massive amounts of rain, over 40 inches. Thankfully, land areas are up here along the Ryukuu Islands, and so you're looking at some areas in the red zone there, that's over 10 inches of rain, which is 250 millimeters. The pink zones there, that's 16 inches of rain, which is 400 millimeters. Parts of Taiwan getting up to around 9 inches over the mountains. Taipei along the northern area there, probably getting about 5 inches, 125 millimeters. Further north, let's go. Areas of China, you can see that there. Some areas 4 or 5 inches. But for Korea, the island of Jeju, the southern coast, and all the way along the coast there, you're getting high amounts of rain. The red areas again, large amounts of the country will receive over 6 inches of rain, 150 millimeters or higher. And parts of Japan as well, southwestern Honshu, Kyushu, and of course the northern Ryukuu Islands as well as the southern ones. So huge amounts of rain there. Multi-faceted event. Way high up in the charts in pretty much all hazards, to be honest, with this typhoon. And that's the models. Or one model, at any rate. And we had to go through that very quickly because we are pretty much out of time. Anything else from our team before we part ways here?
It's one hell of a storm, certainly one for the books. I think besides from the rainfall, the one thing that I'll be interestingly paying attention to is how it will go towards the Korean Peninsula. Will it make landfall? Will it not? And if it does make landfall, will it become what intensity it is? In the last several years, there have been several storms that looks like on the models when it was active, like it might be going for a major landfall on the mainland, but that didn't happen. Would that be any different? Maybe, maybe not. We shall see in the next week or so.
Well, we'll have lots more updates on this storm throughout its life here on Force 13. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, it might be useful for you to be informed of all of our latest updates and notifications when we upload videos. Whilst we're not on the air, we also have our automated live stream, which is running all the time on our channel during this storm, which is showing you the latest satellite imagery. I know some of it is a little bit out of joint right now. I'll be updating that as soon as I get off the air here, so you can check that out. That's just an automated stream, and we'll have lots more updates, including live events on this channel tomorrow and possibly tonight if necessary, local time. Thanks to my team for joining us, and now we'll take a look at what happened on this day in the world of tropics on September the 1st. Here it is. It was September the 1st, 2019 when we saw Hurricane Dorian reaching its historic peak as a very powerful Category 5 storm. Questions about how strong it was, my personal analysis, 190 miles an hour. Juliet was also active in the Eastern Pacific as a tropical storm. I really don't think anyone cared. Dorian made landfall over the northernmost Bahamas, making landfall at this time over, I think it was, I can't remember the island now, the Abaco Islands, and then on to Grand Bahama. Anyway, 3 years later, here we are back again. 51 storms now have formed. That number is a little bit out of date there. Danielle is the next name in the Atlantic. Many people think it might be about to happen. The Eastern Pacific, Javier could also be on the way. In the Central Pacific though, no sign of Hone. In the Western Pacific, the next name is Muifa. We didn't quite get that with 13W. And in the North Indian Ocean, our next name here is Sitrang. Looking towards the Southern Hemisphere, the Australian region, Darian's coming up. The Southwest Indian Ocean could be this storm, Ashley. And in the South Pacific, the next name is Harley. Good night from us. We'll see you again soon. And good night.